Okay. You're jumping around and doing planking during the Umineko stream? Well, okay. Oh, I should get rid of the text here. Alright. Okay, 3 months left to live. No, you're not getting one. Yeah, so last time we had our long Angie cutscene. I was about to say cutscene, like chapter, we should call it. And now we're back at the island. 3 months left to live? It was last year when you said that, right, Dr. Nanjo?
I only spoke of what I could comprehensively determine from his physical condition at the time. Also, I'm not really a doctor. I just tell everybody they have 3 months left to live. Usually works out quite well. As a result, this year too, it just so happens.
So even though it's doubtful whether Dad lasts until the end of the year, he's still totally focused on his occult research. And you still say he has only 3 months left, Doctor?
Well, like I said, Kinzo-san is...
Shouldn't you be happy that your respected father is still in high spirits?
Controller was in the way of my chair.
Out of a sense of parental respect, each one of you is so eager to greet father. I can see how upset you are that he's unwilling to meet with you.
Yeah, right. I'm sure they all are so eager to meet their batshit insane father.
Considering that everyone has started aiming for the inheritance while the sun is still in the sky, I can understand why father would want to see you.
That's a very difficult to understand reference, Christian, but I get it. It makes me laugh a lot.
Benny tut es wirklich leid, dass deinen Bierkuchen aufgegessen hat.
Ben.
Anyway, you've got it wrong, Natsuhine-san.
We just, Dad isn't immortal and he'll die someday. We aren't telling him to die, we're just saying that he will die sooner or later. We're just talking together about how to prepare for that.
And that is precisely what is so disrespectful.
Stop it. You'll make your headache worse.
Klaus told Natsuhi, who had risen from her chair in agitation, to sit down. Trying to smooth over the atmosphere, which had suddenly become filled with suspicion, Hideyoshi put on a forced smile and motioned for everyone to calm down.
Natsu-san, don't misunderstand. People say you should always clean up after yourself, right? We're just talking about seeing him off. We're discussing this so we can see father off neatly when he takes off on the journey he's eventually going to make. That's just like you, Hideyoshi-san. Even though you're saying the same thing, you make it sound so intellectual.
Yes, that's right. Unlike you, Nisa.
Oh, damn. Quit it. We aren't getting anywhere. So like we're saying, Aniki, forget all this about the inheritance. I don't even care if Dad hits us. To make a long story short, we want to meet Dad directly and say hello, even if he says he doesn't want to. If he's locked up in his study, we don't care if we have to borrow a key from Genji-san. Right, Rosa?
Oh, well, it's not like we're forcing you. It's just we haven't said hello to father in such a long time.
So this was brought up earlier today by Zimon. Like, what if it's actually not Genji Kinzo up there? Because has anybody of the relatives actually seen him in the last years? Then again, why wouldn't it be? I mean, that doesn't really seem like it could make for, I don't know, it could make sense. Like I don't know where that would lead to if it wasn't him. But then again, at this point, I don't know where anything is going to lead to, and I wouldn't even be surprised at that anymore. But yeah, it was an interesting thought. I think even when Natsuhi went in there, she could only see his back. So it's not even... I don't know. Has anybody during the last few episodes actually seen him in person? Other than the servants, but they could be in on it if it wasn't him. But yeah, I guess that's a long stretch.
We haven't said hello to father in such a long time. If his remaining life really is short, then there's a chance we might never be able to see him again. Today might be our final opportunity to exchange words with father. That's right, just like Rosa says. If he only has 3 months left, it wouldn't be odd for him to pass away any time now, right? Are you saying that despite that, we don't even have the right to talk with him one last time, regardless of the circumstances? Isn't that just a bit too much? If greeting father were truly what you wish to do, I'm sure he'd happily allow you to meet with him. But father has already heard about the disrespectful topic you hope to raise. No one would want to meet with you under those conditions. The reason you cannot meet with father is because of your own doing and nothing else, is it not?
Ha, exactly. You shouldn't have the regular range to understand why father doesn't wish to see your faces, right? Father has seen through all of your tight financial situations.
Well, that would include you, wouldn't it?
What are you talking about? I don't have a clue what you're going on about, Nissan.
Do you really think I didn't know about the state you're in?
If and the rest realized that he had seen through to their current lack of funds, and alternating between bluffing and returning to the point at hand and arguing back, they repeatedly pressed Klaus to let them meet with Kenzo. The sweet smell of the black tea Rosa had gone out of her way to buy had been completely wasted. The only thing she was glad about now was that the children weren't here for this. The fact that they had gone to play at the beach right after lunch had been their only salvation. Eva made as though to tackle Klaus, and Hideyoshi and Kyrie cut in between them, trying to calm both sides. Then Kyrie took a deep breath and spoke. Also, my guess is that in this episode we're gonna see shotgun wielding Kyrie or something special is gonna happen to her. Simply because that would fit the theme of each of the female adults having a big role in each of the chapters. We had Natsuhi, then we had Rosa, then we had Eva. And I already mentioned, I think, that I feel like there's something happening that only affects the females. I'm not sure, might be totally off with it, but it would be... It kind of seems like that's the pattern so far. And in that case, it would make sense if the next one would be Kyrie. Or Kyrie. Ooh. It will also fit that in the Angie chapter, we're beginning to learn something about Kyrie's family. I don't know, it would kind of fit the whole direction the focus is going right now on the Kyrie family and all that.
I'm sorry, Ghost Nissan. I know I'm an outsider, but I wonder if you'd let me say one thing. I have a proposition.
What is it, Kyrie-san?
First, this includes my husband as well. For many years we have belittled the efforts you have made by living with father and taking care of him. Isn't that right?
Well, we've got it easy since we had to go outside, but Aniki's been babysitting Dad for decades now, and that must have been a lot of work. I'll accept that, but what's your point, Kyrie?
You must acknowledge that Klaus Nissan is father's caretaker. Isn't that right? We've always feared father and have pushed the task of caring for him onto Klaus Nissan. Everyone should acknowledge his efforts. Isn't that right, Ifa Nissan? And so what? Nissan is father's caretaker. Don't decide things on your own, outsider.
Hey now, calm down. Kyrie-san, what are you talking about? Kyrie, please continue.
We should be more grateful towards Klaus Nissan and Natsuhine-san. We should thank them for always taking care of father. It's our lack of gratitude that's to blame for these wasteful conflicts we keep having. Isn't that right, Klaus Nissan?
I'm surprised. I didn't think you, Kyrie-san, would be able to understand our efforts, which even my true siblings have not stopped to consider.
It's a natural duty for the successor to the Ushirumiya family headship. That's right. It's your responsibility as the successor to the headship, isn't it? It's because you take care of father that we must acknowledge you as the successor. Hey, why are you bringing this up all by yourself? You're just an outsider.
Wait, Aniki. That's right. It's just like Kyrie says. Because you take care of Dad, you're the successor, Aniki. It's just like you said.
Oh.
Rosa noticed, and then Eva did. Eva's barking demeanor towards Kyrie for advancing the discussion on her own disappeared in a flash, and she instead stared at Klaus and Natsuhi. Natsuhi couldn't understand that sudden change and was slightly flustered.
Klaus Nissan, if you'll accept just a few conditions, we won't ask you to let us meet father again until he dies. Of course we won't demand to be present at his deathbed. We wouldn't even mind being absent at the funeral.
Now, this kind of makes it sound now like he was already dead. and she just realized it or something. But then again, like, we had scenes where they heard his voice and all that.
Oh, where are you going with this? But I may as well listen for now. Let's hear your terms.
First, the term successor to the headship refers to the caretaker of the current head, Ushidamiya Kinzo.
And then?
Second, the duty of the caretaker is to look after Ushidamiya Kinzo for the rest of his life. To make things simple, the caretaker's job is to care for him until his final moments. You are prepared to do that from the beginning, Klaus-Nissan, so that won't cause any problems.
Naturally, I've no objection to either of those terms. I'm already carrying them out.
Third, on the off chance that the caretaker is neglectful in his responsibilities of supervision, he shall be deprived of his rights as a caretaker.
Uh-oh.
With that sentence, all slack disappeared from Klaus's face. Not so he alone was still having trouble figuring out what it meant.
Oh, and just what are these responsibilities of supervision that the caretaker bears?
It means supervision so that father can live the rest of his life in the best possible health. I'll be more detailed on that. In the case that father dies anything other than a natural death, the caretaker will be deprived of his rights as caretaker, and his status as the successor to the headship will be lost. If that happens, the next highest in rank, Eva-Nissan, will be selected as the successor. What did you say? How can you shamelessly speak such nonsense?
Oh, my, the caretaker certainly has a heavy responsibility. However, people can die in many ways. For example, senile old people sometimes die when food gets caught in their throats. Normally this is called death by old age in its broadest sense. But with your argument, that becomes a death by accident, and I bear the responsibility of supervision. This is unjustly disadvantageous to me.
I have no intention of forcing such an unfair argument on you. I'm referring to the kind of thing that the caretaker could have prevented beforehand by taking good care of and keeping his eyes on father. It may be the caretaker's job to carry food to father's mouth, but whether he swallows it or not is clearly outside the caretaker's responsibility. I would have absolutely no problems with the example you raise, Klaus-Nissan.
Oh, so what kind of case are you referring to that might cause the caretaker to be blamed for making a blunder?
For example, if he disappeared.
Maybe he's already gone, and that's why he's not.
Oh?
It seems that right now, father is in firm control of himself, but dementia might begin to set in.
Begin? Kind of feel like it has already. Although, no, I mean, then again, it doesn't seem like he has dementia in any way. It just seems like he has completely lost it quite a lot of times. Sometimes he is still clear, but often when he starts thinking about Beatrice too much, he just loses his shit.
He might wander around when you aren't looking and get into some kind of accident, or he might get lost in the forest and go missing. Wouldn't this type of case clearly be the responsibility of the caretaker? Father's mind is perfectly healthy. There's no need to bring up dementia. One day, suddenly I saw father go into the forest. I chased after him, but I couldn't find him. I called the police and searched, but after being unable to find him after 7 whole years, I had... I was confused. For a moment there, I thought she just told us something that had happened to her, and I was like, what? Wait, hold on. You couldn't find him for a whole 7 years? But she's giving an example. That's why there's additional quotation marks. One day suddenly saw father go into the forest, chased after him. After being able to find him after 7 whole years, I had him declared legally dead. My point is that we won't accept it if you use a story like that to treat him as dead. When father passes away, an autopsy will certainly be carried out, and we will confirm that he died of old age in the most general meaning within the bounds of common sense. The death of any other cause will be held as the caretaker's responsibility. See? These are all things you have toiled away at all this time, Klaus-Nissan. These aren't strange conditions or anything of the sort, right? You are mocking us disgracefully so. I find it hard to imagine why my husband must be coerced into a rule that disgraces him in this way. Actually, I have been suspecting it since last year. Now everyone here probably suspects it as well. Eva-Nissan and Hideyoshi-Nissan, Rudolf-san and Rosa-san too. Everyone has suspected it the whole time, but it was so frightening to imagine that no one actually said it.
Huh. I see. So this is what you're trying to say. Shit! That father is already dead and that I have been hiding it.
No, that's right. It's one of the theories I thought of as a key to solve the last mystery in the previous game.
You mean the very last bit? The mystery of who killed Dr. Nigel?
That's right. The witch definitely said a lot in red. She mentioned the names of all 18 people and announced whether they were alive or dead, and then she claimed that there were no humans besides them. Oh! Shit! I never thought of that, but if... Why did I not think of that? But okay, that if Kinzo had already been dead long before this started, and then you say that there are 18 people on the island, you can still say that Kinzo is dead, but have one person left that is unaccounted for, you know? Huh. She mentioned the names of all 18 people and announced whether they were alive or dead, and then she claimed that there were no humans besides them. But with this theory, I can weave my way through that gap.
I see. But this is one of the answers that doesn't cause those two to contradict. Makes sense.
See what I'm saying? You catch on pretty quick. It's nice that I don't have to explain.
No 19th person exists on this island, and yet this trick lets us mix in an unknown new character. In other words, the names of all 18 people don't necessarily correspond to the 18 people on the island.
That's it. The witch mentioned the names of 18 people one after another and announced whether they were alive or dead, and on top of that she announced that there were no humans other than 18. There was a single illusion in there. It wasn't guaranteed that the 18 names of people equals the 18 people on the island. When she named off all 18 people and announced who was alive and who was dead, she hid the name of culprit X and instead mixed in someone who wasn't on this island. By doing that, even though the culprit was on the island, she was able to leave him out of the list of living or dead people. The person who was mixed in wasn't actually on the island, so he didn't count towards the total number of people on the island. By this, even though the culprit counted towards the total of 18 people on the island, it was possible for his name not to be listed. The two statements in red are completely independent, so this theory creates no contradictions.
If someone's name was used to hide the existence of the culprit, that name must satisfy several conditions. First of all, even though this person isn't on the island, there's got to be someone we think is on the island.
That would fit Kinzo.
Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to trick us. And it's best if this person happens to be dead. No alibi is more perfect than death. After all, at that point, the mystery was based on the fact that the crime was impossible for all 18 people. Is it something like that?
Yeah, that's it. And that person was grandfather. Right now, there's only one thing Kyrie's son can be about to say. We thought grandfather was locked up in his study, saying that he didn't want to meet anyone. But there's a possibility that he's actually dead already, and that Uncle Klaus is lying when he claims that grandfather's alive. That's right. Grandfather was closed up in his room the whole time and no one saw his face. Maybe he was already dead, and Uncle Klaus and the others were conspiring together, trying to trick everyone. If Kinzo dies, the distribution of the inheritance occurs. However, if Kinzo doesn't die, if he dies but it isn't announced, the distribution of the inheritance won't take place. In other words, Uncle Klaus could have all of Grandfather's wealth to himself. That's right, he's got more than enough motive. Maybe 19th person X really doesn't exist on this island, but a person X existed, and that person was the 18th person. Shit, why did I not think of this? This is a brilliant possibility. Oh, why did I not think of this? Well, I mean, for one, because we saw many scenes with Kinzo ourselves, so how would you explain those? In other words, there were originally 17 people on this island, not 18. Then an unknown person X snuck in and committed the crime. How is that, Beato? Come out, I've just solved the final biggest mystery from last time. She's probably gonna deny it, and Kinzo is just gonna waltz down the stairs with sunglasses on, holding absinthe in his hand, being like,
What's up, bitches? I'm alive.
Isn't that gonna happen? Because that's how it always goes. We finally come up with something that would actually make sense, and then it is denied again. As Bettler claimed that forcefully, the crisp sound of clapping came out of nowhere, and their surroundings turned bright, becoming the usual witch's tea room.
Bravo, bravo! I wish I could deny that someone as incompetent as you has finally gotten a feel for it, but somehow or another you've managed to come up with a single answer. Even a lump of concrete can stop thinking. So you have now finally evolved into a being with intelligence.
Thank you.
You might say you've finally taken a step forward from the crying creature you were before, just licking my shoes and grinding your teeth.
Can't believe that stupid wordplay threw me for so many loops last time. My lameness pisses me off. Alright, Beato, repeat it. If you can announce that the 18 people on the island included grandfather, just try and do it. Yeah, you can't, because he was already dead. This is the end of your deception.
Well now, what have we here? Shall I slice that in two with the red truth? No, it might also be good to hold back for now and let you get all excited. If I'm going to push you off a cliff anyway, it would be more interesting to lure you to a higher place first.
Man. As Beato sneered obnoxiously, she looked like she was searching for an expression that would take me off even more. As though she was saying that the answer I had reached was impossibly ridiculous. Compared to me, annoyed as I was with the witch's attitude, Grete had a blank and composed expression on her face, almost as though she had expected the witch to act that way.
I see. Just like how Bettler has learned and grown, so has the witch.
What's wrong, Beato? Don't act so tough. I asked if you can repeat it. Answer.
Stop it, Bettler. The witch won't answer so easily. She won't do it until she thinks it'll benefit her.
What? What do you mean?
You've been toyed with by this red truth in the games up until now, so the witch has used it many times. But now the situation is different. You're trying to draw the red truth out of her and are instead using it as your weapon.
We've done that before.
In this situation, there's no way the witch will keep firing off the red without reason, right? Grete, or whoever you are, it seems your mind is quite sharp, unlike Bettler's. What a fearsome enemy I've welcomed in. That is correct. When Bettler hopes I'll use the red truth, do I have any responsibility to do so?
No, I don't even have a crumb from that croissant you ate this morning's worth of responsibility to please you. You bastard.
Yes, that's the face. I started playing with the red truth just because I wanted to see that face. I have no reason to play around if it won't give me a chance to see you look like that.
You just don't like losing, right? Just saying whatever you can to trick me because you can't answer my demand won't work.
Don't be so full of yourself. An answer like that could be cut to pieces without any effort. But I won't go out of my way to speak in red. I won't say it because that's what you're asking me to do.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Do you know why? You just said it. You want to push him off at the sweetest spot. This ill-natured witch is saying she won't use the red anymore because that's what you want. In other words, she won't go along with this game of telling her to repeat things anymore. Exactly. Unlike Bettler, everything goes quickly with this girl with no need for explanations. I will say that when I please with the red truth at the time that I desire. That's it. Basically, it's the witch's right to use the red truth as she pleases, but that's unfair. She doesn't have to use it at whatever time the human side desires.
But even that depends on the what? Situation? I guess that should be situation. Yeah, the situation? What do you mean?
The witch has no responsibility to respond when you tell her to repeat something. But it does become a responsibility if and only if your claim can destroy the witch theory. After all, in this trial court without a judge, that which is not refuted becomes the truth.
I see.
Just like how the witch theory made by the witch will instantly become truth if you collapse and stop thinking.
Then, since she doesn't have a counter-argument for my guess that means it's right that the culprit is the mysterious 18th person X, and grandfather's already dead?
At least until the witch argues back. Truth always loses to new truth farther in the future. The tricky part is that even the timing of the counter-argument is up to the witch.
The whole truth loses to new truth further. The future thing was already something we had last time. I just remembered that. With the example of a sun or whatever it was exploding and taking 3 years for us to notice it, even though it was already true for 3 years. In other words, maybe your reasoning just now was correct, or maybe the witches were refraining from arguing back even though you were wrong, or the witch may be ignoring it because it doesn't shake the basis of the witch theory in the first place. But either way, we can't tell the difference at the current time. Is that more or less it? Damn you, Lady Berncastle, for throwing in such a troublesome piece. Thanks to that, I'm losing all my lines. The witch has learned that she can respond to your demands to repeat phrases at a later time. Maybe you could even call it a delayed move. She's messing with me. So even if I announce some mistaken reasoning, there's a possibility that Beata will intentionally let me flounder about without denying that guess. And at the very end, when I propose an even more massive line of reasoning, she can cut it off at the base and spin everything around. A single piece of reasoning becomes a bridge to the next piece. By demanding that she repeat lines, I've been able to strengthen my position and advance bit by bit. But since that bastard Beata learned this strange delay tactic, I can no longer confirm or deny my reasoning. This is like finally finding a staff that let me search around in the darkness, only to lose it right away. I'm just stuck now, right? Hey, Bella, if you make a despairing face like that, I won't be able to stop drooling, you see? From the beginning, that staff was nothing more than something I gave you because you were so worthless. All this means is that you can finally challenge me without a handicap, right? At this point, I have to throw in or mention that while I found it really interesting for the story in episode 3 to have her have a change of heart, supposedly, and like some kind of retribution arc, I am glad to have the real Beatrice back, because she is much more interesting than the cruel Eva, who was just kind of one-dimensional. If you know what I mean. Like, the cruel Eva was just all about being super powerful and cruel in the most gruesome way, but that was kind of felt like that was all that was to her. And I was like, at one point I thought maybe episode 4 will be about that we all have to fight the new Eva Beatrice. So yeah, I'm just glad that didn't happen. I'm glad we have the old crazy Beatrice back. Even though I did like the nice witch, and I'm a bit sad it was all fake. Anyway, all this means is that you can finally challenge me without a handicap, right? But that alone doesn't change the fact that demanding that you repeat things is one of Bella's way to fight back. As I already said, as long as it's something fatal that'll destroy the witch theory, the witch is obligated to argue back and therefore to speak with the red truth. While the timing of that counter-argument is up to the witch, it must be performed eventually. Isn't that right? That may be so. If I cannot deny the tricks done by humans theory Bella lays out by the time the game ends, Bella will use that as a reason to deny me, and it will be possible for him to proclaim his victory. So should we view this as a restriction on the witch's side, that the trick theory laid out by the human side, in other words, what he tells you to repeat must be countered during the game, during the episode? That is so. Bella's goal is to show that he can explain the entire pleasant game I have laid out on this island with humans and deny me. If Bella succeeds in that, at that time he will become the victor of this game. Let me confirm the rules. Should we view the time the game ends as referring to basically midnight on October 5, 1986, going by the time of the Dokkanjima in the game? I have no problems with that. At the time the game ends, the human side must state a theory using tricks for all of the mysteries, and if the witch side cannot argue back, the human side can proclaim its victory. Does that work? Let us be more specific. When the game ends, the witch side will be given a chance to argue back. Let's decide on an amount of time. 1 minute. If you cannot carry out your counter-argument within 1 minute, victory will be proclaimed. Then allow me to impose the same rule on you. At the time the game ends, the human side will be granted 1 minute to counter the mysteries that has been given. Are you crazy? You know how many mysteries every episode had? How are you supposed to explain all of that in 1 minute? Even if you knew the answer to all of them, it would probably take 10 minutes to explain it all. But okay, we'll see.
If even a single mystery has not been countered within that time, it becomes the witch's victory and that game is over. It would be such a killjoy to have the game stop for lengthy consideration, right?
You asshole. Moving things along without me. But I more or less get what's going on. Even if the lines I demand that you repeat aren't countered instantly, they've got to be countered eventually.
Yes, that's right. And that must happen before 1 minute past midnight on October 6th. But be careful. She only has to cut out one of the things you tell her to repeat. You can't proclaim your victory unless you solve all the puzzles. Just as I can use the red, from now on, I will allow you to use the blue, battler.
What?
When explaining my magical murders with humans and tricks, you may state your claims in blue. I am responsible for countering your blue with a red by the end of the game.
Blue. So I'll talk in blue when I tell you to repeat things?
Not quite. When you told me to repeat lines, you were able to do it for any trivial thing. But the blue is a little more restrictive, and as it by itself denies witches, it will not be valid.
It's starting to get confusing, but it's more or less something like this. For example, let's take one of the riddles in the past where I asked her to repeat something. The actual number of master keys is 5. That had been to confirm that there really were 5 master keys when she claimed there were no more than 5. But since that by itself wouldn't deny witches, I can't say it in blue. So in order to speak in blue, I would need to say something like this. The actual number of master keys was greater than 5. The culprit entered or exited the room with that extra key. Only then would the witch who claimed that this was a closed room murder made with magic be responsible for making a counter-argument. In other words, I can't demand that she repeat something that merely confirms the premises of my reasoning. That'll probably be a significant disadvantage for me. Crap. It's enough to make the red Beato used to toy with me until now look extremely merciful. Damn it. So even if I create a theory for a particular closed room and speak it in blue, if Beato denies it at the very end, I won't even have time to create my next theory? This rule is awful, horribly bad for me.
Are you gonna surrender before the fight begins again? Calm down. No one said you could only use the blue once for each mystery. Do you know what that means?
No. What does it mean? I guess it means I could just proclaim a million different theories in blue?
In the pitiful way you've been fighting up until now, you've made a single theory, glance at the witch's complexion, and if that one didn't work, you'd then start making another theory. You won't corner a witch like that.
Then how should I fight? You don't mean?
Yeah, that's right. You don't attack her riddles with a point. You assault them with a wall. You said so yourself in an earlier game that the force of your reasoning should be like that.
Assault with a wall? That's right, I said so myself earlier. Guessing and trying to expose the mysteries like trying to shoot a distant target with an arrow. Until now I've just been shooting off arrow after arrow, asking the witch if I scored a hit, and then preparing my bow again once I'm told that I've missed. There's no way I'll hit at that rate. Bullets might be a better example than arrows. If you take one shot after another at a distant target with a handgun, you probably won't hit it easily, so how can you hit it? If a handgun doesn't work, use a shotgun. Instead of a single bullet, beat her down with a shot comprised of countless projectiles at once. Shot scatters, so it impacts a wide area. That makes it optimal for shooting small, fast targets like birds. That's right, there's no rule that says I have to guess like a pistol, shooting one shot off at a time. Making a single theory and just hoping that it hits it is no better than stopping your own thinking. Blast away with a massive number of bullets of guesses and make them impact like a wall, so that only one of them hitting the target is enough. Oh, just shot is okay. I don't know, it just seemed like there was an A missing there. Beat her down with a shot. Beat her down with a shot. Ah, I get it. It's the plural for what's fired out of a shotgun. Blue, huh? I get it. If your red truth is a razor-sharp katana, then it looks like my blue is a shotgun. No, a machine gun whose firepower will turn the witch into a honeycomb. Bullet bukake. That's another way of putting it.
I see. So it's an awkward gun that fires many shots. That sort of crude analogy is just like you.
The climax of a detective novel is always the same. The famous detective gathers all the suspects at once and displays a single train of logic that works splendidly, almost like William Tell spectacularly shooting through an apple with a single arrow. That's why I mistakenly took that to be a virtue. It probably would be splendid if I could shoot through the truth with a single guess, but that isn't realistic. Look at real wars. Do they really have everyone pull long guns out of the trench, aim really well, take shots at each other one at a time? They don't, right? They fire rapidly, they fire all over the place, they pin down the enemy with a barrage, reasoning the same way. Because of that weird virtue, I've been stuck thinking it's better to take one line of reasoning at a time. We humans can fire off countless guesses and possibilities. The bullet is the power of imagination. Suspension of thought is a clogged barrel. Yeah, we need truth bullets. Danganronpa style. The pathetic way I've been reasoning up until now is like a pea shooter. I've been so lame, weakly firing off shots, getting them denied and read, and then taking the next bullet and reloading. My blue truth, which claims that humans and tricks are what's real, will overpower its target, the illusion told by the witch, with its firepower and the force of what I can imagine. This is my Ushiru Miya Battler's fighting style. This is your fighting style, okay? Thanks to you, I figured out my true fighting style. Thanks, Gretel. You're welcome. Makes me think of how pathetic I was before. Yeah, it's like Beata said. I've had a handicap up until now. I'll acknowledge that. You rule, understood. I have my own way of fighting. I'll show you it.
That willpower is good. I like it. Then try using it right away, this blue truth of yours.
Yeah, I'll use it. With this blue truth, I'll break apart your witch theory, which states that only a witch culprit was possible because everyone had alibis. This is my truth. Ushiromiya Kinzo is already dead. Therefore, the true number of people on the island is 17. By adding an unknown person X to that, it becomes 18 people. I'm still really excited about this idea. I like it. But supposing that this person X exists, the crimes will be possible even if all 17 people have alibis. Still, why did we then see scenes with Kinzo? Although you could say these scenes actually took place a year ago. I mean, did it ever say that they were taking place at the same time? I guess they did. Or maybe not. I don't know, my head is going to explode here. In short, if you keep preventing us from meeting with Father, we will have to accept the following theory. Simply put, Father is already dead, but you're hiding that because you don't want the inheritance to be distributed. Ridiculous.
That is correct. This is worse than ridiculous. I have never heard such an insult.
It would even be possible for us to check by force whether he's alive or dead, with the police there to witness it. Isn't that right, Ifane-san? Hearing something, but I think it's our neighbors downstairs. Kind of sounds like they let an elephant into their apartment, but I guess it's just their kids. Isn't that right, Ifane-san?
Yes, that's right, Nissan. There are all sorts of ways we could set you up. We could easily arrange for a situation where you'd have to hold a meeting with Father under the supervision of a third party.
No, I don't think it's that. That was a response to the chat.
Still, I think that would bring a lot of shame to the Ushiromiya family. That's why I'm making this proposal.
Oh, I think that's Kyrie again. Here we have the responsibilities and duties of the caretaker. And a penalty in the worst case scenario. If you consent to those terms, we'll be able to refrain from doing something like dragging Father outside.
Yeah, that's right. Aniki. Didn't you just say it yourself? You're carrying out your natural duties as Dad's caretaker. Kyrie's conditions shouldn't be anything to worry about, right? Why this overreaction? Are you really that worried about having the position of successor dragged out from under you if Dad dies something other than a natural death?
Or else what? Do you have some reason to think father might die something other than a natural death?
How could I? I see, now I too understand how father feels, how pitiful his later years have been for him, unable to even die as he pleases.
Yes, his later years truly have been pitiful, and the thought that these later years are already something of the past is exactly what we're suspecting.
I mean, it would make sense that Nanjo has already said only 3 months left a year ago. Maybe that was actually true, but then why is Nanjo still playing along?
You could completely clear the suspicion away by letting us meet with father. So even after being humiliated by us this much, you still won't allow us to meet with him, Klaus-Nissan? Father is probably already dead. The corpse may have been disposed of in absolute secrecy, and after taking all of the wealth for yourself as father's agent, you will make it seem that he disappeared until 7 years pass, making father a corpseless member of the deceased. I'm sorry, but please don't take it badly, okay? I'm just playing detective here. How rude can one be? You have no right to stay in this mansion. Leave immediately. I won't permit you to cross the threshold of this house again. It worked last year, but you've used up your luck if you thought it would work this year too. Father's in a bad mood, so he can't meet with us? That was plenty suspicious last year, and yet you're doing it again. If you really wanted to fake being father's agent and grab all his assets, you should have done it a little more speedily, making him disappear without waiting for today's family conference. You really are naive, Klaus-Nisama.
I have no idea what you're...
However, if it's a fact that father is in a bad mood, and you're preventing us from meeting him as part of your responsibilities as his caretaker, then it's a very wonderful thing you're doing. In that case, if you just accept our conditions, everything will be settled here and now. After all, you care so greatly for Father Klaus-Nissan. There's no way father will die in a manner that leads to trouble during the autopsy. After all, father hates hospitals, so he'll pass away in his study, right? An autopsy will certainly be carried out no matter what happens. The only way to kill him without an autopsy would be for him to disappear. Enough, Kyrie-san. I think you've bullied Nissan enough.
Eva rebuked Kyrie in a sickeningly kind voice. Shouldn't it be a sickeningly kind voice, because it starts with an S? Considering the situation, that was impossible, which is why it was sickening.
I'm sure Nissan has his own difficulties to worry about as well as his pride. True, Nissan might consider that one of his natural duties, but if you force him to put it on paper and assign penalties, I could hardly blame him for getting upset. Don't you agree, Rosa? Yes, that's right. She might have made light of Klaus-Nissan's pride as the eldest son a little too much. I'd feel bad for him if we were to force him to sign a statement regarding the duties of the caretaker as Kyrie-san has laid them out.
That's right. You're doing a good job, Aniki. Taking that into account, we might consider avoiding all that about signing strange papers and worst-case penalties and leave everything to you. You people.
Not just Eva, but Rudolph and Rosa as well, with unnerving smiles on their faces as though they had planned this beforehand, began closing in on Klaus, as long as they don't have the same creepy smile that Virgilia had at the end of episode 3. They now understood perfectly how Kyrie had cornered Klaus and exactly where she was prepared to compromise. We were talking about a signed statement regarding the responsibilities of the caretaker, but even without signing such a thing, you can make it so that we'll never demand a meeting with father again. If you can prove your fitness as father's caretaker with a form of guarantee other than a signed statement, that is.
Are you telling me to pay security money? Hilarious.
The security money will be paid to Eva-san, Rudolph-san, and Rosa-san, 3 billion yen each. As a deposit, you will transfer 10% of that, 300 million yen, before the year is out.
9 billion? I don't have that kind of money.
After father passes away, you should be able to work it out. We've managed to investigate at least that far. You should be able to handle the deposit of 900 million yen in your current financial situation. And it should even be possible for you to borrow it from father, right? There's no need for obvious charades anymore.
How unpleasant. Truly unpleasant.
It is at that. Even just the discussion of father's inheritance was far too disrespectful. Father's already dead. My husband is hiding that and keeping all the money for himself. I have had enough of this. None of you are qualified to bear the name Bushido-miya any longer.
Calm down, Natsuri-san. We've all said what we need to. Why don't we leave it at that for now? This is happening all of a sudden and on a massive scale. We might even be getting agitated ourselves. Why don't we take a break for a while and cool our heads? Klaus Nissan probably needs a little time himself. Right, Klaus Nissan? Time? And why would I need something like that? Don't worry. We aren't thinking of anything Seder. We're just so eager to see Father that we started grumbling a bit. And Klaus Nissan, I know real well how you're trying to get back at us for the things we said. If you're willing to go so far, then you just need to let us meet with him, right? Isn't that right? You just got a bit stubborn, and it felt awkward to say you'd let us see him after saying we couldn't all those times. Isn't that it? Right?
It certainly does seem that my husband has lost his composure slightly, just like the rest of you have. We were refusing stubbornly out of respect for Father's desire not to meet with everyone.
Indeed, that's right. It was turning into another sibling fight like the old days, and I started feeling stubborn as well. Let us cool our heads. I understand how much you all want to meet with Father. I will pass it on to him. I'll find some way to convince Father to meet with you. Will that do?
Yeah. I think it'll be okay to give Klaus Nissan some time to persuade Father.
Yep. We're counting on you, Aniki. Please persuade him to meet with us. After all, you're Dad's caretaker.
And as for persuading him, let's set a limit on it to sometime tonight, okay? When tomorrow comes, we'll confirm Father's well-being, even if we have to break down the door to his study. You have no problems with that, I take it, Nissan?
Do as you like. I see. It seems even the time I've been given to persuade him is short. Let us go, Natsui. We shall ask him to join us for dinner at least.
Right.
Klaus left the parlor with Natsuki. Once their footsteps disappeared, Hideyoshi took a deep breath, smirking and flopping onto the sofa.
Kyrie-san, you're a frightening person.
Sorry for speaking out of turn. I apologize.
No, you didn't corner him like we'd originally planned, but in the end, this was even better. Just like always, I've got to bow my hat to you.
But can he really prepare 900 million? I believe we estimated that 750 million would be the most Klaus Nissan could afford with his current financial situation. Isn't 900 million gouging him too much? If he can't do it, that's fine too. If we do something like lowering it to 750 million so Klaus Nissan can save face, it will look like we're compromising it. It'll be easier to settle, right? And if he really does come out with 900 million, that's even better. Nissan is probably having a strategy meeting with Natsui-san about now. It really will be interesting to see what kind of twisted logic our proud Nissan comes up with, acts as an excuse. Convince Father? There's no way he can.
There's no way to convince someone who isn't even there. Oh? Why that laughter?
The siblings have all come despite their various circumstances for this annual family conference.
Klaus and Natsuhi could be seen in Kinzo's dimly lit study. Every once in a while, thunder could be heard, and the dimly lit room flickered with light. It seemed that the island would be closed off by the storm very soon.
Father? Please, just this once, show those disrespectful people the majesty of the head.
It's useless. Sorry, Christian. I should stop that. The large shadow of a person standing by the window, his majestic back facing them, answered quietly and forcefully. He hung his head and shook. Eventually they could hear a mumbling laugh over his shoulder. It's useless is all useless. The fuck? 3 months left to live? An almost finished geezer? To whom exactly are you referring? The hell is that kind of face? It looks creepy. This one still looks like him, doesn't it? But this one looks very terrifying for some reason.
You fools! Did you wander over here because your siblings threatened you? Know your shame.
As Kinzo turned and brushed his cape, it flashed forcefully through the room's stale air. That air pressure truly signified Ushidamiya Kinzo's majesty and willpower itself. Okay, I guess he's still alive after all. After being blown back by that wind, it wasn't strange that clouds landed on his butt. As though showing consideration for Klaus, who looked as though his legs had been swept out from under him, Natsuhi also crouched down. The original was also creepier? Okay. Then with a thunk, Kinzo's footsteps approached with a heft that signified his dignity.
Father.
Good lord! Get that face away from me, please.
You fool! I heard from Kana just how far you pathetically let your siblings lead you around by the nose.
Father, my husband is doing his best to protect your honor.
With a lending an ear to Natsuhi's words, Kinzo extended his palm to Klaus's collar as the latter sat on the floor. No, he curled his fingers, leaving only his pointer finger out, then took that finger and pressed it up against Klaus's collar, twisted it, and slowly with just one finger, picked Klaus up into the air? I'm sorry, what?
You really are a pathetic fool.
He seems different.
You let your wife speak in your defense. If you have an excuse, give it yourself.
Klaus clawed at the air. Kinzo's brawny finger was choking him. He couldn't even open his mouth, much less talk. However, even if he had been able to open his mouth, as he was now, there was no way he'd been able to think of an excuse that Kinzo would accept. Still, how could this power be described? No one would call Kinzo an old man after seeing this superhuman strength.
But father, my husband is fighting in his own way. Please forgive him.
Natsuhi. Fighting is a process you go through before winning. The process you go through before losing is called fighting. That's called being pathetic. You call this my successor?
As thunder roared, Kinzo laughed heartily as though nothing could be more pleasant. And when he finished laughing, he threw his son away like he was scrap paper, slamming him against the wall.
Dear, are you okay?
Klaus slid down the wall, rubbing his throat as though in pain. Natsuhi ran up to him and looked after him, but without showing any interest in the two of them. Kinzo returned to the space near the window as though he had been there the whole time and looked up at the thunderclouds with misfortune.
I thought I would have no regrets in my life if only I could meet Beatrice, but it seems it won't go so smoothly. It was promised from the beginning that nothing received from the witch would remain. However, the Ushiyumiya name is not the property of the witch. Who is fit to succeed that name? It seems that this alone must be resolved by my own hand. Rejoice, Klaus, I have changed my mind. Father, so I have no desire to have dinner with you cowards. However, I will attend the family conference afterwards.
But father, thank you very much.
There I shall make a great announcement regarding the succession of the head. I will resolve our foolish quarrel myself.